I'm going to be roasting a Dominican Republic Ramirez coffee. This is organic washed coffee that I was given from the Coffee Bean Corral. I'm collaborating with them. They've shared some coffee with me to show you how I roast this coffee, and it's really kind of exciting. We've put a plan together in our last video, and that plan talks about what I hope the outcome of this coffee is going to be. I want to taste the origin, and so I'm planning for a medium to a medium light coffee. I don't want something really dark. At least for this first experience, I want to see what this bean has to offer. And so that's where I'm starting with my roast level. Based on that and my understanding of the bean, which I learned from the farm information, from doing a little bit of testing on my own, we measured density, and we've put together a roasting plan on how we're going to move forward with this coffee. And that involves getting the roaster set up and starting at a starting temperature. I've got the roaster idling right now at a place where I'm very close to my charge temperature of 170 C, and the roaster is just getting ready to work its way down just 1/10 of a degree at a time, and we're going to get ready to charge this coffee. I'm going to walk you through each step of the way as I roast this coffee, sharing why I'm doing what I'm doing. And here we go. Let's put 400 grams of coffee into the roaster, hit the charge button, the coffee goes in. This is room temperature coffee going into a roaster that has been warmed up for at least a half hour. It's been idling and it's ready to roast, and the beans are in the roaster. Now, the first thing you're going to see when we begin to roast any coffee in a drum roaster is that the roasting environment has a probe. It's a metal stick that's measuring the temperature of the beans. It's literally in the bean mass, and the beans are touching this hot metal stick. But the beans are room temperature, and so this blue line you see dropping here on the graph is the bean temperature. No, the temperatures in the roaster aren't necessarily dropping to this extent. They have gone down just a little bit, and that's because we've introduced cold beans or room temperature beans into a hot roasting environment. But that's only going to last a minute or so, actually a minute and a half, and then you're going to see the metal stick, the probe, measure and start to show us real temperatures. So here we're at. The coffee is definitely getting good movement. The beans are moving around. And our goal for this roast, and I'm sharing the plan with you here so you can see it, is that we have a minute and a half turning point. And here we are. Turning point is where the probe is now starting to read the bean temperature of the coffee beans in the roaster, and the temperatures are starting to show an increase. This is what we call turning point. And that line that is shooting up from the bottom that's right next to it, that is our rate of temperature increase. Some of you may be familiar with this. It's known as the rate of rise. This is the amount of degree temperature increase per minute. So if you look at the edge of that line and you look to your right, all the way to the right, you'll see that we're about 9 on that line, which is 9 degrees Celsius per minute increase for these beans. So I am looking at the color. I'm going to share the color with you here in a second. But our goal right now is to get these beans to turn yellow. And this is part of the roasting process. We're in the dry phase right now. And I would encourage you, if you haven't seen my previous video, I talk about all of the basic concepts of a total roast, break it down by phase, the dry phase, the browning phase, and the development phase, and we talk about what happens during each of those phases. Here, heat is being applied to the beans over time, and moisture is evaporating out of the beans, and the beans will go from a green color, and they'll turn yellow. And so this yellow event is called the dry event, or yellow, and I'm expecting that to happen around 5 minutes and 15 seconds. That is my estimate on my plan. How do I know that? We talked about that last week. Based on the density of this coffee, which is a medium density, I'm being gentle with the heat. I have used a lower charge temperature, but I am showing temperature, I'm showing my power here. I started at 70%, went to 80%, and now I moved it back down to 70%. Look at the color of these beans. They've brightened up. They're now kind of a brighter green, not that darker green. And this is the first sign of color change, where we're starting to see the beans become more yellow, but they're not fully yellow yet. Okay, we went from a power of 70, and then after turning point, I went to a power of 80%. And then I made some judgments and I decided to lower my power back down to 70%. I was watching the power, the temperature rate of increase. I'm watching my bean temperature, and I decide that I'm on track, and now I've got a power setting of 60%. I'm constantly watching the color of the beans. I'm smelling what's going on. I'm starting to smell some dryness from the coffee, some hay type notes, a little bit of grassy note in there as well. It's still drying out, but it's basically a agricultural product that has moisture in it, so you're going to get kind of that moist green aromas, and then as it dries, it becomes more like a hay, and then you'll start to smell some sweetness. We are really close. You can see that we're almost perfectly yellow right now. We are yellow, and I'm going to go ahead and call that, marked it at 5 minutes and 20 seconds. So I was about 5 seconds off on the dry, so we're really on track. Things are going well, and now we are aiming towards our next event, and that is the first crack event. So here's what's happening to the coffee. Right now, the color has changed to yellow, and that is a sign that we are entering the browning phase. And during the browning phase, we have all kinds of reactions that are taking place to the structure of the bean, and all of the chemicals in the bean, the proteins, the sugars, the acids, all of these things are reacting to the heat, and they are splitting up and creating other proteins, more proteins, and each of these, and more sugars and more acids. And these reactions continue to happen over and over, and they build as flavor development takes place. We're going to take a look at the beans again. We are definitely past yellow, and we're definitely working our way into kind of a nice golden color. The moisture, the wet, grassy smell is gone. We're definitely into the baked goods kind of aromas right now. And I am making sure that we're going to get to our next event, the first crack, in about 5 minutes after dry. So that should put us at first crack at 10 minutes and 20 seconds, about that time. So how am I going to do that? How can I plan for that? Well, I have a rough idea of the temperature that this coffee is going to hit first crack, but let me tell you more about what's happening to the bean. You can see it's definitely very golden there, almost kind of working into the lighter brown, and these reactions are taking place. But what's happening is that moisture is continuing to evaporate out of the bean. There is moisture that's kind of retreating to the center of the bean. And as we get further into this roast, pressure is going to build up inside of the bean structure. And then there is going to be a point in time where that structure cracks. And that is called the first crack event, where we have multiple cracks that we hear, and we know that cracking is starting to take place. And that is the first crack event that we're aiming towards right now. This squiggly line that you see is our rate of rise. This is our rate of temperature increase. And you'll notice that it is headed downward, but it's not at a really steep angle. And that's because this is an example of how many degrees per minute temperature increase my roast is experiencing. And I don't want that to go really low, because then it's going to take me a long time to get the first crack. So I don't want to give up too much energy, too much momentum. And that's why we see a shallow descending rate of rise. All right, I'm continuing to smell the coffee. I've lowered the power. We're down to 40 right now. Why am I lowering the power? Why do I need to lower the power? Well, I need to lower the power because as the beans take on heat, I need less energy to be able to continue to roast these beans. If I leave the power at a high rate, 70%, 60%, then my rate of rise is going to be sideways. My roast is going to be faster than I want, and I'm going to reach first crack earlier than I want. The beans are looking beautiful. They are an even roast color. I'm really, really impressed with the evenness of the roast color. Part of that is because of the bean itself. The other part is that I'm not pushing the bean too quickly. I'm allowing the roasting process to the heat to penetrate the bean, and I am experiencing more of an even roast because we're roasting it a little bit slower than I would with a higher density coffee. You can see the roasting plan here. We're about 20 seconds away from first crack or so, and we're going to see how that works out. First crack on these beans should happen around 191, 192 C, and we'll see how that works out. I'm also increasing my air. So those blue boxes you see where it says air 42 and then air 50, 50% air, that is because I'm increasing the air to create more convective heat. It's a more efficient roasting heat transfer using air. And the drum roaster by its nature can produce about 70% convective heat because the beans are being flailed in the air. We just reached the first crack event at 10 minutes and 32 seconds at 191.6 C. So that's about what I expected. And we were just a few seconds late for according to my plan, compared to my plan, but we're still pretty much on track. So I'm really, really happy with the way this coffee's roasting. Now you can see we are looking at a darker brown. It's not dark, but it's not that super, super light brown. And you can see my rate of rise slowly continues to descend, but I still have good momentum to allow this temperature to get to between 199 and 200 C is where I want to end this roast. I'm choosing this ending temperature and this time and all of this because, yeah, it smells delicious, because I have a certain goal in mind for a roast level to be able to experience the origin. I don't want to roast it too dark. All right, we are almost at 12 minutes right now. I planned in my plan for a 2-minute development time, and I'm going to stick to that. So it's 10:32 is first crack, so I want 2 solid minutes of development, but I'm using a lower rate of temperature increase so my beans aren't going to get too dark. That's my goal. That's part of my plan. And I'm smelling this coffee, and it's smelling really good. I'm smelling some of the acidity. I'm smelling some of the sweetness in this coffee, and we're getting really close. I'm keeping an eye on it. Turn on the cooling fan, and it's time to drop the coffee at 12 minutes and 32 seconds. I think that's what we just dropped the coffee, and these beans are going to cool very quickly. There is a fan in this tray underneath that is pulling air through the beans, and so the beans are going to cool very quickly. Well, this roast went really well, and if we look at my plan and compare my plan to what we actually experience, we're going to see that we're pretty close. But let's take a close look at the beans first. A very even roast, but I am seeing a few roasting defects. I'm going to call those out here when we're looking at these. I can see a little bit of tipping and maybe a tiny bit of scorching, maybe, but I do see some tipping, and these are roasting defects. I don't see a big problem with this roast at all, but we try to avoid any sort of roasting defects. By pushing the coffee the heat too hard on these beans, you can get roasting defects like tipping, scorching, and chipping, which I shared in my previous video. I would encourage you to check that out. All right, the coffee is definitely getting cooler. I can feel the temperature of the fan air blowing on me. But this roast is a textbook for what I wanted to follow. So I put together a plan, and I was able to follow the plan pretty closely. The total roast time was 12:32, and I think we planned for a 12:15 roast. So we went over by 17 seconds between the overage, by 5 seconds in the dry phase, and then a little additional time, 10 seconds, in the middle browning phase. From a green bean to a roasted bean, we've roasted the moisture, most of the moisture out of the bean, and this is going to be an indicator of roast level. I'm going to look at roast level several different ways. One is the temperature goal that I had here, and we landed right in the middle of my temperature goal. I said in my roasting plan that I wanted a medium to medium light coffee. 13% weight loss is what I think I had for my goal. We've weighed the coffee. It's 345.7 grams. When I put that in Artisan, that gives me 13.6 for our weight loss. Is a little more than what I estimated it would be. It's a 0.5% off. I'm okay with that. That's not a problem at all. To me, it indicates that I'm still very close to my medium light roast. And then the third way I'm going to determine my roast level is I'm going to use an electronic color meter to tell me exactly what roast level this coffee's at. We see that it is 67.7 on the Agtron scale, and that, according to the Specialty Coffee Association, is a medium light coffee. We can have a great roasting plan. Everything can go perfectly fine. The roast can follow the plan exactly to the T. The color, the temperatures, everything can just be perfect, but ultimately it comes down to what we taste in the cup. I brewed this coffee using my Kalita, 21 grams of coffee, 330 grams of water, 3 minutes and 40 seconds for the total brew time, and the coffee has had a chance to cool off a little bit. I'm smelling some earthy notes, creamy, almost like tea with milk and sugar in it. It's very complex, but it's not harsh. It's a smooth, medium body of chocolate note, along with a little bit of nuttiness. This is a really comforting cup of coffee, very enjoyable, and even with this medium lighter roast, there's no woodiness, there's no underdevelopment. This is a good cup of coffee, and I really enjoyed it. So what would I do different? How would I roast this coffee differently? Well, looking at the roasting plan, I don't know that I could really push this coffee to roast a lot faster than this without causing roasting defects. So I enjoyed what I'm tasting here. I think this is a great starting point. And I think that if I were to roast it again, I might use the same profile for this roast level. We will roast this coffee again. It will be darker, and we'll get to experience tasting notes with this darker coffee. I've got a link in the description for the coffee, and thanks again, Coffee Bean Corral, for collaborating with me and letting me share this roasting plan and a full roast of this Dominican Republic Ramirez coffee. So awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining me, everyone here. I appreciate you watching this video. If you like what you've seen, please hit the like button and also subscribe if you want to be notified when new videos are uploaded. I upload them regularly. And if you have comments or questions, I would encourage you to go ahead and leave those. I answer all questions or comments that people leave on the channel. So thanks again for being here. Thank you so much for roasting along with me, and I hope you have a great week roasting.